Hello, and welcome to the Choralosophy Podcast. This is episode 58, Telling the Story of American Choral Singing, with Dr. Jerry Blackstone, Matthew Workman, and Brian Gaukel. Yes, that's right. 4 people, including myself, all talking at the same time, which is a first on this show. I'm excited for you to hear this conversation and really to hear the story, more importantly, of this project. I'm not even sure if you've heard about it yet. You probably have, because they made a big splash on social media announcing the project a few weeks ago. And now they're here with me to discuss the project and what it's going to take for them to be able to pull it off, what inspired it to happen. All of those types of things will be coming up in this conversation and really the behind the scenes. And it's such an exciting project. My 3 guests for this episode have teamed up to create a monumental expression of what choral singing means to us here in the United States. Now, of course, we will get into the issues of how do you choose how to tell that story? It's so wide, it's so diverse, it's so varied regionally, age groups, all that. How do you tell all of that story? So Jerry, Matt, and Brian and I hooked up to discuss the behind the scenes scoop on how this project came together and where it's headed. You will definitely want to hear this story and continue to follow it closely over the next year. So to get you started, to whet your appetite, so to speak, we put this conversation together. Before we jump in there to that conversation, however, just have a few announcements, as always, for the Atlanta Convention, and it is going forward. We are going to do it. Get signed up, and it's going to be awesome. The Atlanta Convention, the idea is a small, socially distanced convention, but really convention probably is a misleading word because it's a professional development meeting. That's what it is. And we're going to have, rather than presentations, we're going to have conversations about different topics. Different leaders of the conversations who are experts in those areas will lead conversations. And rather than you just getting talked to for an hour by an expert, we're going to talk about, we're going to discuss, we're going to dig in to certain areas of choral classroom things that happen in our rehearsals, issues that we want to work through. So some examples would be, we're going to do something that at some conventions, they do reading sessions. Well, we're not going to do a reading session, but our version of a reading session will be a rehearsal where we'll curate some sheet music that you need to see because it's cool and exciting and works really well. And maybe you'd find something in the same way that you would a reading session, right? But instead, we're going to shape it like a rehearsal where I would be able to, in this case, I'm going to lead these and I'm going to be metaphorically killing several birds with one stone in a reading session, demonstrating certain aspects of a cappella rehearsal, of sight reading instruction, kind of working almost as if the people who are there in the reading session become part of the choir. And then we get to discuss not only the sheet music that we're seeing, and then we get to discuss the idea of the rehearsal techniques themselves. So the idea, again, is a smaller group that we can really dig in a professional development setting. So get signed up. Choralosophy Con is the name of the event, Choralosophy Con 2021, and there is a Facebook page. You can add yourself to that page and get all the information, or you can head over to my website and find information about that. A big shout out to the producers over on Patreon. Patreon, of course, is a volunteer. The show is free, but you can volunteer to support the underlying costs of the show for as little as $3 a month. There's a private podcast feed and over there and everything. But these folks are at the producer level, and they deserve a lot of credit for being able to keep this show going. And that's Ulrika Igrain Munoz Alarcon, Chandler Smith, David Kowalczyk, James Mock, Kyle Peterson, Michael Herron, Ryan Main, and Steve and Kathy Kakachik.
Was that bourbon? Is that the secret sauce to podcasting right there?
Oh, yeah. I've always got this with me during the interviews. This is a scotch, actually, but
okay.
So I do rotate between varietals depending on my mood.
Depending on how hard your interviewees are.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No. This is I've got my own little office and studio in my house, and I've got my own little bar in here, so it's lots of fun.
That's cool.
So would you like us to be not easy, and that would give you an opportunity to imbibe?
No rules. No rules.
You may want to fill your glass up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I've been warned. All I am really excited to tell you guys about mymusicfolders.com. Of course, there is the Resonant Singer's Mask, which is making a lot of really high quality singing possible right now during the pandemic, and it looks like we're going to need them still for a while. So make sure you head over to mymusicfolders.com and grab your choir a set of those. And then while you're there, especially as things return to more normal, you might find all kinds of other things that you need. Your choir folders, mymusicfolders.com, obviously, it's right there in the name. But then there's also mychoirrobes.com, which is a partner website where you can get really inexpensive and high quality choir robes, which is a non-gendered solution for your choir uniforms. And the beautiful thing about this is when you're making a purchase for your entire school, you can enter Choralosophy at checkout to get a 5% discount, which on a school-sized order, that's hundreds of dollars oftentimes in savings. So I recommend you head over to mymusicfolders.com and or mychoirrobes.com and use Choralosophy at checkout. Okay, everybody, I am here with the team of masterminds behind a new documentary. You've probably seen it floating around Facebook so far, video clips and everything. It's called Choral Singing in America, Nurturing the American Soul. And I'm excited to sit down and chat with all of these folks. This is about the why, the behind the scenes, everything that's going on with this project, because it looks pretty monumental. So I'm excited to learn more about it. So welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Hello.
Pleasure to be
All right,
here.
we've got, I was just telling you guys in email prior that I've never done a podcast yet with 4 people all at the same time. So don't be afraid to just shout something out. And if there's, awkward moments, I'll just cut it out where we talk over ourselves.
Matt's pretty awkward. So
yeah, we just cut out all of Matt. Then that would probably be best. Okay, so let's start out with just some informal introductions of who we have here discussing this project. So I see Jerry. Let's start with you. Who's Jerry?
Sure. I'm Jerry Blackstone. I'm a choral conductor. I was director of choirs at the University of Michigan, retired in 2018. I've been on the faculty for 30 years. Led the graduate program in choral conducting, conducted the Men's Glee Club for 14 years and the Choral Union for 12 years and the Chamber Choir for a lot of years. And since retiring, I did a sabbatical replacement last year at Wheaton College. And it was during that time and actually at the beginning of the pandemic time that the 3 of us started talking about engaging this project.
Very cool. That's exciting. Yeah. Okay, Brian. I see a Brian. Tell us about Brian.
Sure. My name is Brian Gaukel. We currently live in Rome, Georgia. My wife is a professor here in the Rome area, and that's why we moved. Our daughter is at Berry College, and I'm from the state of Michigan. I sang with Jerry when I was in high school, so I've known him for over 20 years now, more so the past couple years. I'm a longtime video producer, first-time filmmaker, which I'll talk about a little bit more later when you ask some questions, but documentary feature film about Jerry in 2017 and 18, and just excited to be making this next film with a couple of great friends.
Wow, I'm definitely going to have some questions about that connection that you guys knew each other from Brian when you were a kid, basically.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that Matt and I sang in the same choir. So Matt is really one of my longest friends at this point. So from the summers of 92 through 95, we sang up at Interlochen together. So we've known each other for quite a while.
Okay, so I was interested in this project already, which is why we're doing this conversation. But I'm even more interested now. I have this thing where I've anytime I get a chance to collaborate with my former students as adults is just one of the best feelings that you could possibly ever imagine. So what a neat story. We'll dig into that later. Okay, Matt, tell us about you.
Well, I'm also a Michigander, and I've sung my whole life. Moved out to New York here, back in 2001 permanently, and love this city. I've been working in concert production for, I guess, about 15 years now, and I started national concerts in 2018, and we're just on pause right now. until it's safe again to concertize.
Right.
So when this opportunity came along, you can imagine how excited and how thrilled I was and honored to be able to be the executive producer for this series.
Wonderful. Well, welcome everybody, like I said, and let's dig into this story a little bit. Let's start out, Jerry, if you would talk to us just a little bit about the origin story, I guess, of this project. Why is this a thing that you are doing now? Like, what is the story behind the genesis?
Sure. Brian did a documentary about me during my last year at the University of Michigan. The 2017, 2018 year, we saw each other a lot, and we hadn't seen each other very much during before that. And Brian stalked me. I mean, followed me to various places that I was working and filming concerts and talking a lot. And we became, well, we'd been good friends, and we became better friends over the course of that. And then the documentary came out. We had a premiere a year ago in November in Ann Arbor, and in conversations with Tim Sharp of the American Choral Directors Association, Brian and Tim were talking about that and about some other things. And Tim said, and this was about the time in March, when things were shutting down, and Tim said, it would be really great to have a documentary about choral singing in America. We just don't there's nothing like that exists that surveys the vast panorama of all of the various types of choirs and where they flourish and who sings in those choirs and who were the icons when choral singing was developing in this country. And as a country of immigrants, where did it come from, and why did it develop as it did, and what happened in the late 19th century? So we started talking. Brian and I started talking, and then Matt contacted us and said, I'd be really interested in being involved in this. I bring skills of organization and production skills, and we said, fantastic. And so the three of us then started figuring out how we wanted to do it, talking to a lot of people about how many episodes we thought we should do. Do we want to do a chronological format? Do we want to do a subject format? And we put together a panel of really great advisors, about 30 choral scholars and leaders and thinkers and dreamers from around the country. And we started the project. We did a teaser that we released last November for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're in the process of working on a longer introduction that we will release around the beginning of, at the National Conference of the ACDA in March.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. And so I'm assuming then Brian, as the film maker, I guess the person who brings that expertise to the table, was there a certain logistical things that you had to jump in to start doing right away? I'm thinking about during the pandemic, it's kind of hard to go film a choir. So what were some of the things you had to do to kind of get the ball rolling?
Yeah, this is challenging. It's kind of nice, to be completely honest with you, because this is a big project. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot of pre-production to go into it. And so we've been fortunate enough to have that time to really, in fact, we've got a great skeleton for the film, which we're developing every day at this point. Things keep changing every single day, but you're exactly right. We've been very fortunate that so many great-hearted educators, teachers, cinematographers have donated us footage. Most of the footage that you see in the teaser that we released last November was donated footage. Some of it was things I filmed. One of the things that I noticed a couple years ago was there's just very little content in this field. There are very few films about choral music. There are very few stories that are being told, and yet there's so many great stories to be told. And so, like I say, it's just been great to jump in. But yeah, we there's not been much to film at this point, and we're trying not to focus too much on the pandemic. It's definitely a monumental thing that's happened to choral music, but we really still want it to be about the history of American choral music, and in making sure that this gets its attention, but that it's really about the grand history of American choral music.
That's wonderful. That makes sense, because if you're wanting this to be a truly narrative story about the art form over time, we would all hope that this becomes a blip. if
That's right.
If you're looking from the long view of 200 years or 150 years, then we would think of this. That's wonderful.
I remember let me interrupt just one thing. When we started, I was writing sort of an overall plan and dreams for it. And I initially said I wanted it to be timeless, not stuck in a particular time, not derailed by certain things that were happening. And then I realized that it's going to be a snapshot no matter what. It's going to be a snapshot that takes place between 2020 and 2023 when we're done with it. It's going to be a snapshot. Now we're going to look back and see a lot of things that happened before that. I don't know that we'll predict what's coming up, but we're certainly going to talk about the thriving activities of singing in choirs. But so we can't ignore what's happening right now.
Yeah,
but we can show the good things about it. We can show what we miss, and we can show what could be better. A friend, I heard a sermon in a church not long ago that said, the staff of the church says, "Oh, it'll be so great when we get back to normal." And he said, "Why would we ever want to get back to normal? Can't we do things better than we could beforehand?" And I said, absolutely. We'll never go back to the naivete that we had with technology before this started.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
No, that's wonderful. Yeah, that's amazing. So, graphitepublishing.com is a website that sells sheet music directly to you in PDF form, and it's got a stable of composers that and they're all so fantastic. Many of them have been on this show in Composer Exposure episodes. Christopher Harris, Eric Barnum, David Von Kampen, Jocelyn Hagen, Tim Takash, just so many more. Joshua Shank. They're just great composers on there. And oftentimes these are composers that publish other places as well, which is why their names. But Graphite is a unique entity and a great company led by Tim and Jocelyn. And they are giving voice and giving ownership to composers in the digital music format, which is convenient for you, meaning you get the music right away, but it's also very helpful for the composers. They own a bigger share of what they sell. So it's a good way to support living composers. And also they have an amazing search engine on there, which allows you to zero in on the exact kind of song you're looking for, and it pulls it right up for you. So I highly recommend heading over to graphitepublishing.com and using Choralosophy at checkout to save 10%. Yes, it does seem like a huge monumental project. One other quick question for you, Brian, then, as with the filming, do you plan to, though, once choirs start becoming more active, get out there with the camera physically and shoot some stuff just for this?
Yeah, it's so funny because I'm not even sure I answered your question before. Sorry. Really, one of the things we're doing right now is many choral organizations, including ACDA and Chorus America and Barbershop Harmony Society and anyone and everyone, Mormon Tabernacle Choir, they've all given us access to their archives. And so one of the trips here recently was to Oklahoma City. They literally had a whole box of CDs and DVDs and VHS that they've been digitized here over the past few weeks. We've relied on past performances, but to answer this question definitively, yes. We absolutely, between interviews, I mean, we have an almost unlimited amount of people that we could interview for this film, and that's one of the hardest things, is just trying to figure out, at what point do you stop? But we do want to capture happenings in choral music and things that are notable, and not just collegiate groups, but high school groups and middle school groups and community groups. And so hopefully within this year, but definitely within 2022, there will be production that will happen as well.
That's awesome. Earlier, Jerry mentioned, Matt, that you were kind of bringing that producer, those skills of organization to the table. This all sounds like such a monumental thing. How are you going to pull all this off? Like, how does this actually occur?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good question. Well, fortunately, it's not just the three of us that's involved here. As Jerry mentioned, we have a panel of advisors that's been very helpful, and they're involved. And then we recently established a development subcommittee that's been helping as well. So, one of the biggest things that I knew that I'd be able to help with was fundraising. This, by the way, has been completely out of pocket thus far, and we are wholly reliant on donors and financial support from anywhere we can get it. It's the original budget came. I'm comfortable sharing this. The original budget we were looking at was 1.2 million.
Wow.
Which some would say for what you want to accomplish feels about right. Others would say that's ambitious, maybe a bit high. After long meetings and long hours staring at numbers and a different approach to the budget, a zero-based budget approach, we brought it down to 800,000. So 30% decrease. So managing the budget is a big part of this, and getting some donors and financial support. So the development subcommittee I'll work with, they'll help me oversee a fundraising strategy that, as you can imagine, would initially be a lot about promotion, getting the word out. I mean, the Chorus America study from years ago says that they're cited that 1 in 6 people sing in an organized ensemble. Well, that's a lot of people. So, if we can reach the right people that can support us, this shouldn't be a problem. So we're going to have a robust promotional strategy in so many different ways, and come up with meaningful opportunities for donors to support this project.
Wow. That's unbelievable. I would have, now that I start to do my own little math in my head, and I haven't been thinking about this like you guys have, but if you're a 3-year project, it does make sense to me now. Like that's going to sustain an effort like that over a course of that much time. That's amazing, and it makes sense that you're going to have to pull together that kind of, those kind of resources and that funds. And so that's really, truly amazing. You mentioned that Chorus America study, Matt, which I think is, one of the more important pieces of advocacy available to us as choral musicians is just that knowledge and being able to kind of share that choral music in America, but I think worldwide, and depending on where you are, a choir might look different or might sound different. But the idea that humans would sing together is pretty darn universal, and it's not one of those things that I've always felt this way, that in America, we kind of think of singing as something that children do and old people do. But in reality, that's not how it is. It's like there are people from every walk of life sing together. So that's an amazing thing. And so, Jerry, I'm going to direct a question back to you as kind of our resident
old
choral
person. Nice.
I was going to say that so much more artfully, because
Of course you were.
but you cut right to the chase. So why is it so human, and why is it so popular that people sing in choirs? So what do you feel like it is that it draws people? And keep in mind that they're not all choir nerds like we are. So what draws them?
Mm-hmm. I think there are as many reasons why people sing in choirs as there are people who are singing in choirs.
Yes.
Some people do it because it's an opportunity to make friends with people who like what you like. Other people do it because they've always done it. I sang as a kid. I sang through high school, and I maybe even sang in college. And then when I got out, and I work hard all day, but this is my therapy at night. I just go sing with some friends. Some people sing, I want to sing with this group, I want to sing in my my ethnic choir, my Lithuanian choir. I'm from my Lithuanian heritage, and I love to be around those folks. Other people, their choirs in prisons, and the hope and the joy that can bring in that very dark situation. There are so many reasons. And it really has to do with what do people take home with them at the end of the rehearsal. Stacey Horn in her Imperfect Harmony, book on imperfect harmony, says that non-professional musicians always leave rehearsals feeling better about themselves. Professional musicians sometimes don't, because we bring that high bar and we say, man, why couldn't I do that? Why? And amateur musicians leave a rehearsal and say, that was great. Yeah, we still have a little work to do on that. We're not quite there with that piece, but it felt good to sing. It felt good to be around those people. And so I'm sure that sense of camaraderie, that sense of community is a large part of it. There is also a sense of healing that happens. Alice Parker talks about shortly after her husband Tom died, and she was leading a sing with in a church, people singing, and she at first thought, I don't want to do this. Why? I have young kids, but do I really want to do that? And then as she started doing it, she realized that she met her husband, her deceased husband. She could see him again when she did that. She could sense him. And the healing that brings, that sense of, okay, sometimes it's simply for escape. I'm going to leave. I have had some physicians sing in choirs that I directed, and will say, I remember one guy wrote. He said, I'm a pediatric cancer doctor, and he said, he said, I today told the family that there was no more medicine that we could give for your little child. And he said, I came to rehearsal that night, and we sang the Brahms Requiem. And he said, it was just what I needed. To put that in perspective of the bigger picture. So it's healing for those who sing. It can be healing for those who listen. And it certainly, for those of us who are the nerds, it can be a thrill to be surrounded with people who love it.
Yeah, absolutely. That echoes something that I kind of say to students and a lot is, and it's related to that idea that you just never know who in the audience would need to hear what at any given moment. And because we don't know, but when the audience walks in the room, we don't know which person out there had what kind of a day. That means that they need to hear just what we have to sing that night. And maybe, it's possible that we don't move anyone in a concert, and that happens sometimes, but you just never know. And so one of the things I tell kids is that because teenagers especially love to do this, which is when we're preparing a concert, to pick their favorite song and have that one be the one they care about at the concert, and then the other ones they don't. And I will tell them, I smell that happening, and I'll tell them, how dare you? How dare you decide for the audience which piece they need to hear tonight? Because if you walk on stage as if it's going to be your favorite song, then you're projecting that. So have you been to ryanmain.com yet? If you are a teacher of young singers, middle school, high school in particular, he's a master at engaging kids with the music that he writes. I did 2 of his pieces this year, even during the most bizarre semester ever during a pandemic, and the kids just loved the pieces that we did. We did The Future Now and The Birth of Music, which are 2 fantastically exciting, dramatic pieces, which the beautiful thing about Ryan's music is that it's interesting and multi-layered, but it's also accessible. So I find it to be very successful in my classroom with my students and getting them to hear themselves right away as sounding good, but then there's so much to work on later. It's not fluff. It's the perfect combination for my high school kids, in my opinion. And the cool thing about Ryan's music is when you enter Choralosophy at checkout, you get 10% off. You also then own the PDF, which means that when you do it 3 or 4 years from now, you still own it. You don't have to go back and buy more copies, which is a beautiful thing. So head over to ryanmain.com and use Choralosophy at checkout on his music. Sometimes it's hard for us to see this. The reason I paused to tell this story, but it's hard for us to see this because maybe we have a song on the program that's just, to us, just goofy. Like we just think it's goofy. Well, there could be somebody in the audience that was having such a stressful day that they need something that would just take their mind off of that for just 90 seconds. And then sometimes it's a requiem that really needs to be, deeper and richer. And, so we just never know. So I think that it's an amazing, my goodness. I mean, obviously you don't have to convince me that doing a project like this is worthy, because this is something that, the average person needs to know how powerful this art form is, if they haven't experienced it, or if they haven't experienced it recently. Which I think is a great opportunity. So maybe this could be a question that any of you could answer, or maybe you'd each have your own different answer. What would you see? Let's say this fast forward to 3 years or whatever it is, or 2 years from now, when you're ready to be done with the project and present it to the world. What is it that you're hoping that it contributes? Let's make this a two-part question. What is it that you hope it contributes to the choral profession? And what is it that you hope it contributes to humanity?
Cool. I'll jump in. I wanted to jump in on one thing that you were just talking about. I used to conduct a choral union in Ann Arbor, and we would do 2 performances of Messiah every December. And there was a beloved Catholic priest who was a member of the tenor section, and he would say some inspirational things before we sang each of the performances. And he said, I'll never forget. He said, almost every year, he said, for some of the people in our audience tonight, this is the very first time they've sung Messiah.
Yep.
Or very first time they've heard Messiah. And we want to portray those words and make that meaningful to them. And there will also be some people in the audience for whom this is the last time they'll hear Messiah. Mm-hmm. And there's a message for them to hear too. So, and it made us connect with each other more, but it made us connect with the words that we were saying.
Yeah. In fact, okay, now I have to keep your answers to my question in your head, but I have to tell this story. So, because you brought up the Messiah, I was teaching adjunct voice years back at a community college. And it's the kind of small community college where, anyone from the street can just walk in and sign up for a class. If you can pay the fee and you can take the class. And I had a voice student who was a 53-year-old psychologist. Mm-hmm. And he was taking voice lessons, and he had recently had a car accident where he had, they did surgery after the accident, and they did the thing where they pull out the tube out of his throat, and it damaged his vocal folds. Hmm. And he wanted to take voice lessons as part of the way to rebuild his ability to phonate and to sing. And I didn't really feel qualified for that. I felt like you need a speech pathologist, but he wanted to sing. And ultimately, I finally got it out of him that he's not a singer. He is an amateur. But every Christmas, he sings the Messiah. Mm-hmm. And he hasn't been able to do it since his accident. Mm-hmm. And he enrolled in voice lessons at a college just to rebuild his voice so that he could sing the Messiah again. Whereas for us choir nerd people, like, we've heard the Messiah so many times that we're like, really, for that? Like, it's a cool piece and everything, but like, that's that goes back to what I was saying before. We don't know what the impact of this music and the community has on everyone else. So that's an amazing story as well. Okay, who else has their answer for me about the contributions? What contributions do you hope this will make?
Well, I'll jump in with a few of those, and then I'm sure my colleagues will have some. One of the reasons that I wanted to pursue this project, because it's becoming clearer to me that today's younger, very talented conductors, particularly, which is whom I worked with a lot, but also singers particularly, don't really know the icons, don't really know. You can mention the name Robert Shaw and they might not know. And they certainly wouldn't know what he did, the influence that he brought, or Roger Wagner, or Paul Solomonovich, or Robert Page, or Ivor D. Hyatt, or any of those really great icons in the last 100 years. And I thought it would be really wonderful to be able to highlight with historic recordings or stories or photographs that of their work. Mm-hmm. We stand on their shoulders, and choirs are better now than they've ever been, in my humble opinion. And that's not because we have invented the wheel. It's because we've been given a wheel that is in pretty good shape, and we've taken it another step. And then you can have access to YouTube and recordings, and you can hear those and compare, and it gets better. So that was the historical perspective, was something that's really important to me. And then one other thing, and that was Tim Sharp said this to us, and I absolutely agree. He said, really, choral music in America is regional. You live in Chicago, which I live in a suburb of Chicago. My sense is people don't really know what's happening in Michigan. If you live in Michigan, you don't really know about the choirs in Indianapolis. The only time you ever experience those might be in a convention or conference, a state conference, or it could even be, I lived in Ann Arbor for 31 years. It could even very possibly be, you could live in Ann Arbor and not know what's happening in Detroit. And that's just 40 minutes away. So we know what's happening in the choir that we're singing in. We know what's happening with the conductor that we interact with all the time. But other than that, and especially if you're a student, you don't go to other concerts. If you're a high school student, you're involved in your high school choir, you don't go to anybody else's choir concerts because you're busy. Your life is filled with things. If you're in college, you might not even have a car to get to somebody else's concerts. So to combat the regionalism is something that we thought we might be able to do with this.
That's great. Have you renewed your Sight Reading Factory membership yet this year for you and all of your students? If not, get started. It's not ever too late, in my opinion, to give your students the gift of confident literacy and the empowerment that brings. It's amazing what happens when you really start to see the growth and you see that confidence build in their eyes. You can always use Choralosophy at checkout to get 10% off your whole order. For a school's order, that's a big savings, and you can use that code every time you renew each school year.
I think that one of the things I'm excited about this are learning about the stories that there are to tell. I think that sometimes when you think of history, you think history is boring, or it's just going to be information that's going to be displayed. But I love taking something and finding what's interesting about it, and what's fascinating about it, and what's inspiring about it. And choir is a beautiful thing. I mean, I relate to this, but Ken, Jerry, I'm spacing out on Ken's last name.
Ken Seeloff?
No, Michigan.
Ken Fisher.
Ken Fisher. Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ken Fisher had mentioned that two of the three most profound moments of his life have come from singing in a choir. And that's a profound statement coming from a guy who's had as many experiences as Ken Fisher has had in his lifetime. And I think that one of the things I hope to bring to this is that I hope people would leave feeling inspired, feeling energetic about choir, feeling like they want to participate in choir. Maybe you haven't sang, but we want this to appeal to the masses, and we want this to appeal to a group of people that would then go on and want to contribute to the art in any way that they can. So
I hope there are a lot of people who say, I had no idea.
Yeah.
That would be a reaction that I would really love.
Yeah, that's great. How about you, Matt?
I was hesitating. My radiator is making so much noise back here, so I hope it doesn't pick much of that up.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Two things immediately came to mind. The first is a Dan Forrest quote, something like, when choirs are able to get back to singing, it's going to come from a much deeper place. And so that resonated, and I feel like this documentary series is an opportunity to take the essence of that. Not that this is going to highlight and be about coming back and bouncing back from the pandemic, because there's an aspect of that too that's very important, is to help us get back to recruit and revitalize our choirs and our programs. But just the passion that exists, and then the other part of this is, I've been so fortunate in my life through choral singing that opportunities have come up, and any opportunity I have to contribute to our choral world, I jump at. So when I earlier said that this is an honor, it really is. It's an opportunity for me to give, to help provide and create and develop something that I think is going to be extremely important and significant and meaningful.
And I think that's why we've set the budget the way it's set. We really want this to be notable. Could it be done for less? Well, it probably could, but we really want this to be something that will be that we'll all be proud of, and that everyone in the choral community will be proud of. So we really do want it to be something that's great.
Yeah. So meaning you don't want to cut corners. And not especially on the quality aspect of the production side of things, so that when people see this, it will seem as if, as if that quality was being paid attention to along the way, right? I mean, because of course I could make a choir documentary in iMovie on my computer, and I could have it to you in 2 days.
Sure. Yeah.
But that's not going to be the same result and the same quality as what it sounds like you guys are wanting to do. So that's wonderful.
We want to do it
go ahead.
We want to do it the right way. We want to do it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
We're probably going to make enough enemies because of how many millions of things we can't include.
Yep.
and so the things that we can include, we want to do it in a beautiful way.
Yeah. In fact, yeah, I was going to ask about that actually, because you just by the nature, will this be a 2-hour film? What is going to be the runtime, or do you have a plan?
We do. It's going to be 4 episodes. That's the plan now. 4 episodes, okay. Probably 55-minute episodes. That you could, could be an hour-long PBS, whatever, Netflix, whatever. We're thinking about lots of possibilities. Mm-hmm. Maybe in a classroom, and 4 episodes. So we're thinking about the first being the power of choral singing, and looking at a big, broad, why do people sing in choirs? What do they get out of it? What do they bring to it? What are the sort of the big stylistic? And we're interviewing a lot of people. We interviewed Sanjay Gupta the other day. Sanjay, who's
CNN.
CNN, sang in a choir that I conducted when he was a college senior, and as a brain surgeon, which he is, what is it about singing in a choir that helps your brain? And he talks very eloquently about crossing the midline of the brain, and one side is for music and the other side is for words, and when you put words and music together, that crosses that line, and the back of the brain is where rhythm happens, so that'll be the sort of thing that happens in that episode. Then we're doing an episode on choral singing in the community, talk about community choirs and African-American choral singing, and professional symphony choruses and amateur symphony choruses, and big community choirs and small community choirs.
Prison choirs, street choirs, yeah.
Barbershop, Sweet Adelines. Mm-hmm. And then singing and worship. All of the various types of worship, and urban, rural, and why, our roots are in the Pilgrims and the Puritans who brought singing with them, and how that developed. And then choral singing in the academy, from children's choirs and elementary school choirs up through collegiate choirs. Some of the best choirs in the world are the American collegiate choirs, and why is that, and how did that develop, and how did we train the next generation of choral conductors, with graduate programs? And so those are the 4 episodes,
right?
And it's not going to be an historical approach, because we're going to tell stories, and we're going to be as undry as we possibly can, to make it as interesting and as logical, but as engaging as we can, because choirs are made up of people,
right,
who all have stories, who are there because of a story of some kind, and we sing stories as singers. So that's that's the sort of the big picture of
Right. Okay. So yeah. So when you say not taking the historical approach, meaning you're not going chronologically. Episode 1 is 1892 to it's not that. It's more like each episode looks at an aspect of choral music.
a type or a genre or
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And like you mentioned before, that even in 4 hours of film, you won't be able to include every part of the story that is choral singing. And so I'm assuming, is this one of those areas where your panel of advisors steps in to help? Okay, so we're going to have to exclude something, but we want to be as inclusive as we possibly can with all of these things. And so what stories do we tell and which stories do we not tell? Am I assuming that correctly, that that's where that panel of advisors comes in?
You can imagine in almost any documentary, that's one of the largest challenges, is what to include and what not to include in this finite amount of time, because you have so much footage and archival, B-roll, everything that you film and interviews that you have to cut, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's the question. We've been diligently having terrific conversations, Zoom, FaceTime, individual one-on-one in our weekly meetings with various members from the advisory panel and people not on the panel about just this topic. Their opinions, their stories, and putting a lot of that together. And it's helped us develop some of the storyboard and content that we want to be sure we include. But I can imagine, Jerry and Brian, that we're far from a point where we're saying this is not going to be in the documentary.
You're absolutely right. Brian is a
That makes
genius
sense.
at knowing how to string things together to make a logical whole, and to be able to, rather than say, okay, we're going to spend 5 minutes on this and then 5 minutes on this, he can, in a wonderful way, combine that so that 5 minutes or 4 minutes, or the teaser was 2.5 minutes, can touch on 30 different singing styles and so on, but tied together with some sort of logical subject matter.
Well, and if there's any art form you could cover in a documentary that can be both extremely diverse and extremely universal, it would be choral music.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think, of course, that's one of my favorite things about it in the first place, which is that we could line up every single kind of choir on the planet at a convention, and when the rubber hits the road, it's just going to be humans on stage singing together.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, that makes sense, and that if that's kind of, and I have a feeling, like, obviously this is your vision, but I can already kind of picture it in my head as being maybe one of those underlying messages, even if no one actually says it in the film, which is that just how inherently universally human
Mm-hmm.
it is to sing with other humans. And of course, we have all these in the U.S. Even just if we were looking at the U.S., all the musical traditions that are so widely ranging, but we, in that melting pot fashion, we sing all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Which that's such an amazing thing. And in fact, I don't even know if we pinned down that explicitly. So it is choral singing in America. And so you will stay focused on that, even though, like I said, even though we now have this kind of melting pot of different styles, right? So that is the intent. Am I getting that right?
Right. It's not going to be, we're going to focus more on the people than on the music they sing. So
Yeah.
we're not going to
Okay.
talk about composers. We're not going to talk about, necessarily stylistic trends, but we'll talk about the people who sing all these various types of music.
I see.
And I think one of the key things that you just said is that they sing together.
Yeah.
That's the specialness of choral music. Choral singing in America is not just in English. It might be in Latin, it might be in German, it might be in Lithuanian, it might be in Russian. It's Americans, it's people who live here coming together to sing. And the broad spectrum is quite remarkable.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Okay, so let's wrap it up in this way, if it's okay with you guys. If there's just any part of the story that you feel like we haven't gotten to, or any kind of final thoughts or things that we should be thinking about regarding this, maybe even ways that, like, once it's done, how do we keep track of you? How do we find it when it's ready?
Yeah.
All those kind of critical elements.
Yeah, exactly. If I could just jump in real quick. First of all, Chris, thank you for having us and for all you're doing for the choral community. Everything eventually will be available on our website. Right now, it's choralsinging.org.
Okay.
And you can view the teaser. The promotional trailer will be unveiled at ACDA National in mid-March. There's an opportunity to donate, to subscribe to our monthly email, and you can see who's on the advisory panel. You can read a little bit about the synopsis and everyone involved. So we'll keep adding to the website. We also have a Facebook, of course. Instagram is getting fired up, so smash that follow button. So subscribe to our email, and we'll keep you updated on everything as we go.
So I'm going to assume then that as the production kind of continues to ramp up, and maybe we were talking about earlier, as Brian's out there collecting new footage, as we go forward, those Instagram opportunities, mailing list opportunities, is your plan to kind of keep us, seeing the project happen in real time?
Yeah. So one of the greatest challenges we have is when you announce a project 2 to 3 years early, you got to keep people engaged for 3 years so they don't forget about you. That's exactly right. We've had the great fortune. We've already interviewed Dr. Andre Thomas. We've interviewed Marty Monson, the head of Barbershop. Right now, we have a slew of people who are providing us footage for this next trailer, since we can't physically get to them. So we have got lots of new content coming, which is very cool. But we do hope to continue to engage people as we get new footage. Part of that will be interview footage that we've maybe filmed 6 months ago that just, we release some. Another thing we're playing around with is having sequence releases. Maybe there's a sequence of the film that we can share with the world. Maybe it's not even finished. Maybe it's a sneak peek, and you watch it then, and by the time it gets to the film, it just changed a little bit. But we'll hope to have different viewing events like that will keep people engaged.
Okay, yeah, maybe we'll have to get together again in a year and give everybody like a halfway point update.
Sounds good. Right. Even the old guy in another year. That's fantastic.
All right. Any other final thoughts?
I'd like to invite you to consider donating to our cause.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah, I'm in. Yeah, I'll definitely help out. This sounds wonderful. This sounds like a great idea.
Well, and if one in 6 people sing, if they all just gave $1, we'd be there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or $5.
Or if 1% of them gave $5.
Yeah.
There you go.
Jerry?
Yeah,
it's a very exciting project, and we're the three of us are honored to be involved in this project.
Yeah, it's daunting. It really is.
Yep.
You're a little nervous about it because you want to get it right.
Right.
The longer we go, the more we say we could do that. What we need to do that. Have you talked to them? Have we thought about that? And so now, we begin to say, okay, now it needs to expand a little bit. And the way to expand a little bit is we need some more money to be able to do that. So,
Well, I will definitely put the link to the site on the show notes for this episode. I will put if it's okay, I'll just put the teaser video in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
And that way, if somebody comes and listens, they're going to see all that. And maybe even I could even probably add a direct link to your donate button.
Terrific.
Make it
easy.
Make it easy for people to see that and chip in that few dollars or whatever it is that they're able to do and help this process along. So congratulations on this undertaking, and keep it going. And this is exciting. So of course I'll hope that you will keep me updated, and I'll try to keep listeners updated, and wish you guys all the best of luck with this.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for sticking around to the end of an episode. As always, I like to remind people on the way out that there are ways that you can help me spread the word and help me keep this show going if you appreciate the value that it creates for you. And there are a variety of ways you can do that, ranging from the superfan all the way down to just the casual listener who just wants to help out in appreciation of the work that it takes to put on this show. So the easy things are liking, sharing, commenting. The real MVP out there in the listening world is someone who is willing to take an episode that they enjoyed or got something out of and share it in a Facebook group of some kind or some kind of a social media post about the episode, because that's just how it works. When I try to share the episodes, Facebook tries to bury it so that I have to pay. But when you share the episodes, it helps a lot. So that's something you can do. Leaving ratings and comments, as like just any type of interaction that you do with the show, helps a lot in hacking those algorithms. And then, of course, there's the more active help, like going to one of the sponsors that you can see on the banner behind me. That's Voce Vista, Sight Reading Factory, Graphite, Ryan Main, mymusicfolders.com, mychoirrobes.com. Using the promo code, getting the discount for yourself, that helps me out a lot. And then, of course, heading over to patreon.com/choralosophy, joining that club over there. All of those things are any of those things are things that you can do to help out and help me keep this show going into the future and forevermore, as long as I am still enjoying talking about choir in public and taking the abuse and all of those things. But I am having a blast, and most of that is because you're listening. And so that's an exciting thing that I see myself doing this for a long time, and I want you to be a part of it and be a part of that conversation. So last little bit of plug, head over to Choralosophers on Facebook page to be part of that conversation. You can also go to choralosophy.com and leave some comments in a form embedded in the website. And that could even be that you heard something on an episode that you would like to respond to on an episode. And that would be something that you could do as well. So look forward to hearing from you. See you next time.